Well, hello, our fellow friends,
Hi.
our fellow neighbors, and our fellow shining stars. Our next trolley stop is here, and our next trolley stop is now. Welcome back to another all-new episode, PR from the Heart's Children's Book Spotlight Series. We are celebrating a momentous occasion here this week on the program, episode number 175. That is the 175th trolley stop here at PR from the Heart and the Children's Book Spotlight Series. My name is John Massalonis, the manager here at PR from the Heart and the host of the Children's Book Spotlight Series, joined as always by my little guy that is Little Forrest. We've had the opportunities to beam into your devices, your homes, your living rooms, your dens, your libraries, your schools for nearly 5 years. And we have had the opportunities to share many magical messages, some pretty cool trolley stops along the way. And it's very fitting that one of our favorite neighbors joins us here this week for this special celebration that is episode number 175 of the Children's Book Spotlight Series. You know, one of the interesting memories, it's so interesting when you take the time to grow up and someone will share something to you when you're a kid, and you might not necessarily know what it means. So I remember going back to my old grammar school in the Buffalo, New York area, and my art teacher, Miss Schaffner, and she would always say, "John, a little dabble do ya." Now, I had no idea what she meant at that point. It was more than likely tied into, John, you don't need a lot of glue when you're using construction paper, just the right amount. But one of the things that we learn as kids, and we need to be reminded of as adults, is slow and steady wins the race. Because oftentimes we want to just get to the finish line. We want to get to the end of whatever it is that we're doing. We want to know how the movie turns out before actually enjoying the whole motion picture. And so one of our favorite neighbors, along with one of our newest neighbors, very special Sloth, they're not only reminding us to take the time to enjoy the little things, to take the time to go sledding, to go steady, because then you'll actually win the race. But you can really see and feel the hearts that you connect with along the way. We encourage all of you, listeners and viewers, our friends and neighbors, and of course our fellow shining stars, to head on over to Amazon.com. If that is your preferred online vehicle of your choosing, you can also head on over to shopzoo.org. I believe that is shopzoo.org. Or is it
.com. Shopzoo.com.
Okay. Every once in a while, over nearly the past 5 years, we can get our .coms and our .orgs confused. But the brand new book, which we are really looking forward to sharing here on episode number 175 of the Children's Book Spotlight Series, Teaching Tornero, the true story of a sloth superstar, is now available. We encourage all of you to leave 5-star reviews for Teaching Tornero if you feel guided to do so, of course. That is one of the many ways that you can pledge your support for now 5-time guest on the PR from the Heart Children's Book Spotlight Series. She is the award-winning creator of the Hope and Inspiration series. She is also the director of corporate publishing for the San Diego Zoo Wildlife Alliance, and she is bringing this story to life. That is Teaching Tornero. Joining us as our featured guest here on episode number 175 of the Children's Book Spotlight Series is our dear friend and fellow neighbor, Georgeanne Irvine. The trolley doesn't have to travel very far when we go from San Diego to San Diego, Georgeanne. Thanks for spending some time with Little Forrest and I, and there's no other person that feels... It had to be you for episode number 175 of the Children's Book Spotlight Series.
John, I am so honored, first of all, to have this as my 5th appearance, but then to be 175, it couldn't be more exciting. It couldn't make me happier and more honored. So thank you so much for having me on the show again.
I'm really excited about this particular message. And before, of course, we begin, we always encourage all of you, our fellow neighbors, our fellow friends, our fellow shining stars, our listeners and viewers, if these messages that we are communicating and sharing right at the top, the forefront, and the onset, the messages of slow and steady wins the race, to take things one step at a time, because then you can really not only see but feel the number of hearts that you connect with along the way. We encourage you, if these messages also need to be shared with someone in need, if you know someone who is moving through a little bit of a difficult time or who simply just needs to be reminded to just take the time to smell the roses. And while you're in San Diego, you head over to the San Diego Zoo and then head on over to the Rose Garden as well, so that you can enjoy the animals and then smell the roses all at the same point in time. Please subscribe to PR from the Heart's official YouTube channel. That is one of the many ways that you can pledge your support for us here at PR from the Heart, sharing this very special trolley stop that you are now enjoying. That is episode number 175 of the Children's Book Spotlight series. Nearly 5,000 subscribers and strong and growing. Georgeanne, I've just seen how we've had the opportunities to grow together over the course of these past several years, from when you were first on the program, going back to episode number 42. I still remember one of the most treasured memories that I have is when I vacationed in San Diego for 1 week in the summer of 2019. And I went to the San Diego Zoo gift shop and I saw the Hope and Inspiration series. And I said, I need to get in touch with this Georgeanne Irvine and have her on the program. Before we talk about teaching Tornero, just kind of looking back, you just celebrated another anniversary at the San Diego Zoo. I believe you're approaching 45 years, nearly 50 years now, actually, at the zoo. We've had the opportunities to connect on air, off air. What has this whole experience meant like for you, knowing the fact that you're continuing to help people, you're continuing to introduce children, parents, and families to these wonderful animals that are at the zoo, and knowing the fact that it's still continuing after so many years? What does this mean to you, still after all this time?
I just celebrated 45 years, so it's not quite 50. So let's keep it at 45. I've actually had 3 jobs at the zoo. All of them have been in communications, where I have been able to share wildlife stories. I was in PR and marketing. I was in our philanthropy division. And all along the way, I wrote children's books. But in 2017, when I had the opportunity to create a publishing division with one of my colleagues, everything I've been doing has led up to this. So to be able to share stories, individual stories about animals who live or have lived at the zoo and safari park, really kind of culminates my career. It's the perfect thing to be doing right now. And as we've spoken about before, I feel really strongly that if a child can get to know an individual animal, like Tornero the sloth or Karen the orangutan, I feel that it really connects them not just with that animal, but with the species and with wildlife in general. And I also believe that children really identify with the animals, the individual animals, and some of these animals have gone through some challenging times in their lives, as do children. So I think not only do these books introduce children to wildlife and conservation, but they help them grapple with some issues within themselves as well. And especially our previous book about Don the tapir, that really dealt with bullying in the book. He was bullied by guanacos and llamas, and he didn't care. So not only do I hope children learn to love Don and tapirs, but I think it probably hopefully helped them deal with bullying issues like that. So many of our books have underlying messaging in them as well.
Hearing on that thread, knowing the fact that not only that you're helping children, parents, and families, but that these messages are being spread far and wide. You just received another award for Raising Don, so there's a reason why this is an award-winning series, not just a children's book series. Can you share with our listeners and viewers, with our friends and neighbors and those who are maybe just learning about you for the first point in time, a little bit more about the backdrop of the series, and just really also what it's meant for you as well to have yet another award be received, most recently for Raising Don in the process?
The award was a total surprise. It was a Gold Benjamin Franklin honor. It's a national honor from the Independent Book Publishers Association. And interestingly, it's our 4th gold medal for this collection of books. And we also won a silver one year. Of course, it's great winning awards. I mean, that's really special. But more than that, what it says to me is that there is a need for these types of books out there in the children's book market. And I also want to emphasize that, yes, I'm the author of these books, but it really takes a village to put these books together. And I really want to applaud our wildlife care specialists, our veterinary team, editors, photographers, because all of us work together to create these books. There aren't lots of collections of books out there that actually tell real stories of animals and illustrate them with photographs. And I think that's one of the things that makes this collection special, is that we have to follow that animal from the beginning of its story to wherever the story ends with photos. And it's really tough. I mean, I shoot some of the photos, our zoo photographer shoots some of them, but I also plant cameras with the wildlife care team, and I've used cell phone photos. But documenting their story with photos and telling the story every step of the way with photos makes these books all the more special. And I feel really strongly that this is an excellent way for children to learn about wildlife. And I feel very privileged and honored to have been given the opportunity to create these books. And you just never know where a story is going either. You don't know when you start following an animal, you don't necessarily always know where it's going to end. And that makes it very interesting as well. We've got a couple upcoming books that had surprise endings, better endings, but just things that I didn't expect in the very beginning. So I'm very honored to be able to do these books, and obviously very thrilled in winning another award. Very, very honored.
Now, over the past 5 years, and again, this will make a good PR from the Heart Children's Book Spotlight Series bingo. So these are the numbers to look at. All these interviews are now available via our official website, prfromtheheart.com, and selected interviews are available at PR from the Heart's official YouTube channel, depending upon which platform that you are watching this particular episode of the Children's Book Spotlight Series. So it all began for Georgeanne and I, episode number 42, where we talked about Rooks and Raina. Then there was episode number 66, one of my personal favorites in the Hope and Inspiration series, because that talked about Mosi Musa, which is the story of a baby monkey that was actually raised by his grandmother. Then we went to episode number 112, which is when we talked about saving Mocha. That was shortly after I made the move from Buffalo out here to San Diego. And then most recently, episode number 162, our special in-studio interview that we actually conducted here in San Diego for episode number 162. So this is a very special episode. And so we're talking about a very special sloth. Now, if you're a fan of children's books, and even just like if you're a fan of kids, sloths are the in thing, or one of the in things right now. But this isn't just a special sloth. This is a sloth superstar. And it's just so awesome to see this book finally released, because if we go back in the Wayback Machine, we had the opportunities to connect when the origins of this book were being written, and there was a really special experience that you had the opportunities to create. I had to be a part of this as well, to actually see Tornero up close and personal. For those who are learning, that people are learning about you as well, but many people are learning about Tornero for the first time. If they haven't had the chance to be at the San Diego Zoo, can you share a little bit more about his story and how people will be able to really connect more with not only his journey, but his heart when they enjoy teaching Tornero the truth story of a sloth superstar?
Tornero is now one of our wildlife ambassadors at the zoo. And a wildlife ambassador is an animal that our wildlife care team can introduce our guests to, kind of get up close and personal, not touch, but look at them up close and get to know that animal personally. And the whole idea behind the wildlife ambassadors is for them to represent their species and also teach children about conservation. And an example is with Tornero. there are 6 different species of sloths, and 2 of them are critically endangered. And when people meet Tornero, how can you help but, you fall in love with him. And even if you love sloths already, to see him up close and personal, and it makes you want to learn more about sloths. And he is a representative of all the other animals that live in the rainforests of Central and South America. So having Tornero as a wildlife ambassador enables us to inspire children and adults and teach them the importance of conservation, protecting rainforests, and that sort of thing. So what's really interesting about Tornero's story is that his mother, Zena, is a wildlife ambassador too. And a lot of people wonder, well, where do you get your wildlife ambassadors? What's special is that when Tornero was born, his mother, Zena, actually raised him. And while she was raising him, our wildlife care team was gradually teaching him how to be a sloth ambassador. And sloth babies don't stay with their mothers as long as other babies do, so they gradually spend less and less time with their mothers as well. So when Tornero was first born, we just left him with his mother. We didn't climb up to see if he was a boy or a girl. We just let them bond. And then as he grew a little bit older, he actually stopped nursing at 10 days old.
Oh, wow.
And they gradually stopped nursing. He was maybe nursing a little bit, but then he started eating solid food. So they mature very quickly. So we gradually would bring Zena out to meet guests at our wildlife ambassador presentations, with Tornero clinging to her to get him used to new sights and sounds. And then gradually we brought her out and we brought him out separately. And he just gradually started spending more time away from her, as a sloth baby would do. And what I think is really interesting, Tornero first went off zoo grounds to a television show. And I was there. And when we brought him back, our wildlife care specialist called Zena by her name and said, "Zena, Tornero's back." And she had been up in a hammock in her habitat, and she climbed down slowly and, reached out to her baby and had him cling to her chest. But it was really funny because I think, according to the wildlife care team, she was enjoying a little bit, how moms with babies need a little alone time, a little me time. So it took a few times calling her to get her back down to reach out to Tornero. But it just is a really wonderful story about the best of both worlds, about Tornero being raised by his mother while also being taught by our wildlife care team. So it's really like a mom with a child, and then the child goes off to school. And so that is how I would compare it. But in the end, Tornero becomes a teacher himself. And that is the whole purpose of our Wildlife Ambassador program. And I've seen people, I saw you meet Tornero, and I saw the look in your eyes. I saw the joy in your heart. And I do believe it, in my mind, it changed you forever. And now, not that you didn't like sloths, but you love them even more when you get to meet them and you learn their story.
Well, this is why I feel that the theme of our interview, it's so interesting because animals always teach us a lot. And it always depends on where we're at on our own individual paths. And many of us as adults, we want to just take the time to just fast forward things, or we want to get to the finish line. And one of the things about, kids as well, kids are more in the moment. Kids will savor and enjoy whatever it is that they're doing. So I remember when Tornero was coming out, and it was just like, he went literally like one step at a time. So and I was captivated by that, because it's a matter of like, he could have just rushed his way over to us and maybe he would have had the same impact, but he just said, no, you know what? I'm going to move at my own pace. I'm still going to make the same impact as well too. Obviously this book shares the fact that Tornero has touched many lives along the way. So knowing the fact that as you've been doing that, Tornero's been doing that, and he's continuing to do that, being one of the wildlife ambassadors. What does it mean to you when you're able to see one of the animals like Tornero exhibit some of those same qualities like yourself?
First of all, I watched Tornero grow up, and that unto itself was a joy. I think the first time I saw him, maybe he was just a few weeks old. And so just watching him grow up meant the world to me. And knowing that we were going to be able to tell his story touched my heart. It really did. It made it extra special for me. But the other thing is sometimes I rush in life as well. And just knowing, telling myself, slow down, be like Tornero. And for someone who's never seen a sloth move, they do move in slow motion. They can move more quickly than what you saw, John, but on the other hand, when they move more quickly, it's still in slow motion. And one of the other things, it is not only does, in my mind, he teach you to love sloths, care about the rainforest, remember to take life slowly. But I like to say to kids, I hope that Tornero's story inspires the superstar in you, because every child is a superstar in her or his own way. So Tornero is a superstar in his own way. You are, I am. And it just made me stop and think about what kind of an impact Tornero can have on children in this other way too, not just slowing down and taking life one step at a time and enjoying every moment of it, but also looking inside yourself and knowing how special you are in your very own way. The cheetah is special. It's the fastest land mammal in the world. I won't say that the sloth is the slowest. I'm not even sure if it's the slowest, but slow is special too. If you move slowly, you will get where you're going. And so it really was heartwarming to watch him grow up, but also to know that his story would encourage people to take life more slowly, but also to inspire the superstar in each of us. That's especially important to me as well.
Going back to the slow and steady wins the race, and also another theme that's related to that is the importance of taking care of yourself. So I always love about the Hope and Inspiration series, at the very end of the book, they have the fun facts about the animals, but there's also these little circle pop-ups, and there's descriptions there. So it says, like other sloths, Tornero and Xena sleep about 10 to 15 hours per day. Now that's just something where it's just, if I'm taking a look at this book, it's like, wow, I could sure use a little bit more sleep in the process. And then on the other side of the page, one of my favorite passages in the book is called The Good Eater. And I still remember this story, and I've shared it, I think, maybe even once or twice in the Children's Book Spotlight series over the years. Again, you remember the quirkiest of things, Georgeanne. So I remember my grandfather, being part Polish, we would call him Jaja. So that's Polish for grandfather. And one of his favorite meals was tomato soup and grilled cheese sandwiches. And he would spend 1 hour, kid you not, eating lunch. And I remember as a little kid, I said, Jaja, why are you taking so long to eat your food? And he said, and I'm paraphrasing this, he said, I'm savoring my food. I'm enjoying it. This is my time. And I could literally see Tornero pulling off a Jaja, eating the piece of broccoli in the passage that says the good eater. So it's just interesting. And depending upon the lens in which you view the book, yes, you'll learn some amazing things along the way, but I love how these stories help to just reflect back to you, to intuit to you the things that you need to know, the things that you need to remember a little bit more, and most importantly, those treasured memories that you'll never forget as well, too. We are fully immersed in the brand new children's book from the Hope and Inspiration series by our dear friend, colleague, and fellow neighbor, Georgeanne Irvine, the award-winning creator of the Hope and Inspiration series, the Director of Corporate Publishing for the San Diego Zoo Wildlife Alliance. We are celebrating episode number 175 of the Children's Book Spotlight series. Again, we encourage all of you our listeners, our viewers, our friends and neighbors, and of course, our fellow shining stars to head on over to shopzoo.com as well as amazon.com. If amazon.com is your preferred online vehicle of your choosing, you can leave a 5-star review for Teaching Tornero and any of the other books in the Hope and Inspiration series, whether it be Ruxa and Reina, Mosi Musa, Saving Don, Saving Mocha, Raising Don, any of the other books in the Hope and Inspiration series as well, because that's one of the many ways you can pledge your support for Georgeanne, to let her and her team at the San Diego Zoo Wildlife Alliance know that they're doing wonderful and much needed work for children, parents, families, educators, and those who love great children's books. And of course, if you happen to be vacationing in San Diego this summer, this fall, or in the future, for all of you who are watching this episode months or years from now, you can head on over to the San Diego Zoo and head on over to the gift shop in person, just like I did back in the summer of 2019, and you can purchase your copies of the Hope and Inspiration collection. Obviously, seeing Tornero from birth to now, what were some of the things that you were able to learn specifically about sloths? It's one thing when you read, any sort of book about sloths or any sort of, medical journal or anything like that. But firsthand, up close, what were you able to learn more about sloths, and what were some of the highlights for you in terms of what you've been able to see about Tornero and learn about him, between not even just him as a sloth, but his quirks, his musings, what makes him Tornero along the way?
I love his quirks. And what's really interesting is wild animals are wild animals. They are not pets, but each animal does have an individual personality. And I'll give you an example. Tornero, at least when he was little, loves broccoli, but his mother did not love broccoli. However, when he started eating it, she started eating it. But on the other hand, Tornero also loves bananas, and Xena did not learn to eat bananas. And in fact, if a banana even touched any of her other food, she would not want to eat that food because she didn't like bananas. So it was fun seeing little personality quirks. And like, sloths are vegetarians, and they've got a very slow metabolism, and they eat, vegetation. And Tornero loves hibiscus flowers. That's a real treat. But he mainly likes red and pink hibiscus flowers. But if there are not red and pink hibiscus flowers, he will eat yellow. So it was fascinating to me to see these little quirks in his personality and his likes and his dislikes, but then also just to watch the process of him growing up and getting larger and gradually moving away from being his mother and living in his own sloth haven, complete with lots of places to climb and a hammock to sleep in and lots of vegetation and heaters if it got cold. So I had never watched a sloth grow up from practically birth to adulthood. So that was really fascinating to me. I'm fascinated with everything about animals, but just watching him develop his personality, watching the care that he got from our wildlife care team and the veterinary care was really important and special too. And just as an aside, I'd like the viewers to know that San Diego Zoo is a nonprofit conservation organization. So everything we sell, this book, everything goes right back into conservation efforts. And I think that is something really important for adults and children to understand. But I was also interested in some of the facts about sloths. And there's something that I would like to point out, that we do have this in the back of the book. But some people go on vacation to places like Costa Rica and all. And what they may not know is if you are offered an opportunity to have your photo taken with a baby sloth, which people think, oh, it must be fine. This is the tourist industry. I would just like to let them know that it's probably not fine. Those baby sloths were most likely taken from their mothers just for the purposes of making money. And so it's a very important reminder. We show Tornero to our guests in a natural setting and we let them look at him close up, but we don't take babies so people can hold them and all. And so I know many people they love sloths, and if people are on a vacation in Central or South America, they might see a sloth and, oh my gosh, I want to hold it, I want to love it. So it's a very important message to know that in most of those, probably all of those instances, please do not do that, because most likely, again, the sloth has been taken from its mother. Something bad probably happened to the mom, and what are they going to do with it when it grows up? So I do want, that's very important for people to understand that, and that sloths do not make good pets. Any animal baby looks cute, and maybe we are able to hold it while we hand rear it, but in the end, it's a wild animal. So I wanted to just let people understand and realize that.
And I'm really glad that you communicated that, because it's also a testament to the entire team, all the wildlife specialists at the San Diego Zoo Wildlife Alliance, the care that they give to the animals. I've been using this expression quite a bit recently, and I'll paraphrase it: if you love what you're doing, it doesn't feel like you have to work a day for the rest of your life. And it really seems and feels like, from my experiences at the San Diego Zoo and our conversations, and even me actually speaking with some of the people who actually work at the zoo, everyone actually loves working there. One of my favorite passages of the book is also towards the very end, entitled Introducing Tornero. And it's interesting because eventually, as we move forth in life and we have the slow and steady mentality, we get to the point where, as you said, it's time to really connect to that energy of being a superstar. And so when Tornero was placed at the zoo's front plaza and he was given the opportunity to be in front of larger groups of people, can you share with us a little bit more of the insight of that process when that actually happened? Because, some animals, they're very, they love being with people. They're very out there. They're very engaging. And then some animals, they're also even more sensitive, and they really don't like to be bothered. They don't necessarily mind being around people, but they have, they're a little bit more sensitive in nature, so to speak. So what was that process like, seeing Tornero actually take that slow and steady mentality and then get to the point of where he's actually with larger groups of people, especially at the San Diego Zoo?
First, at the San Diego Zoo and the Safari Park, our wildlife ambassadors do what they do by choice. So one thing that's really important to us is give the animal the choice. And if a wildlife ambassador does not want to go up on the perch, it does not do that. So everything is at the animal's will. So with an animal like Tornero, it's really important to gradually introduce them to crowds and different sounds and that sort of thing. And so you start with baby steps, and that's just like in life too. Your child does not all of a sudden start walking. I mean, you start crawling, you kind of stand up, you sit down. And with Tornero, it was a very, very gradual process. Like I mentioned a little earlier, he would come out with his mother first to meet people. And then gradually he and his mother came out together. And in that scene in the book, when he comes out in the front plaza, he was out there for as long as he felt comfortable. And what's interesting, and what we do say in the book, is he was still young, so he was not used to hanging upside down yet. He was learning to hang upside down, but he has a perch that's made of, branches that he can either hang upside down. So in that scene in the book, he is actually laying on top of the perch because he hasn't yet learned to hang upside down. And he gradually did learn to hang upside down. And that is what he does now. He really very seldom sits right side up. Most sloths do everything upside down. And it was really interesting when we were trying to decide on a cover for the Tornero book, most of the photos we had were of Tornero upside down. But when you looked at it, he looks a little bit different from a three-toed sloth, which is more recognizable. So we finally found and shot some photos of him sitting right side up, because he does do that sometimes. So that is what we ended up using on the cover of the book. But it's all this gradual process. Now when you see Tornero, he never lays on top of the branch. It's interesting because they've got such long claws on the front, on their, they call them fingers now, and then they've got claws on the back. So two-toed sloths obviously have two claws, two toes in the front and three on the bottom. And a three-toed has three on the front and three on the bottom. So they both have three on their back feet. But what he does is he uses those claws to wrap around the branch and hangs. That's why it's so important that they have round, long, curved claws. So he did eventually learn to use those claws, but in that page spread in the book, he hasn't yet, gotten that down. And so he's literally laying on the top of the branch, clinging to it, but at least he's on the branch. It was a gradual process, and he eventually did learn to do everything upside down, because that's such a natural behavior for sloths.
You always learn many things. We've learned many things together over the past nearly 5 years on the Children's Book Spotlight series, and we'll share a little funny fact that will put a smile on your face and a smile on your heart. So we've already mentioned that Tornero's mom is Xena, like the warrior princess, right? Well, can you guess the name of Tornero's father? We'll give you a clue. It's a famous, well-known Hollywood actor. He starred in many movies, including one of my favorites from about 20 years ago, Meet Joe Black with Anthony Hopkins. It is the legendary Brad Pitt. So yes, you have Brad Pitt and Xena the Warrior Princess, and that is where Tornero comes to life. We're beginning to wind down our time with our featured guest here, award-winning children's author, the creator of the Hope and Inspiration series, and the director of corporate publishing for the San Diego Zoo Wildlife Alliance, Georgeanne Irvine. We are fully enjoying her brand new children's book, the latest in the Hope and Inspiration series, Teaching Tornero the True Story of a Sloth Superstar. It is now available. You can check it out at one of three places. If you're in the San Diego Zoo, if you're in the San Diego area visiting the San Diego Zoo, whether it be living in San Diego or on vacation, you can check out the San Diego Zoo gift shop. You can head on over to San Diego Zoo Shop Zoo, I stand corrected, .com, along with Amazon.com. Now, if the latter is your preferred online vehicle of your choosing, you can leave a 5-star review there. That's one of the many ways you can pledge your support for Georgeanne and her entire team at the San Diego Zoo Wildlife Alliance. You can, again, leave 5-star reviews for not only Teaching Tornero, but for the entire Hope and Inspiration collection, Raising Don, Saving Mocha, Mosi Musa, Karen's Heart, Ruxa and Raina, and Fabulous Floyd. Again, they are now all available. And again, remember, the best bingo that you will have for episode number 175 of the Children's Book Spotlight series, we've already included the links below to make things efficient, where you can actually enjoy Georgeanne's 4 previous trolley stops. So again, episode number 42, episode number 66, episode number 112, and episode number 162. One of the things that we also love to continue to provide for parents and caregivers and grandparents, as well as educators, are useful, supportive tidbits, nuggets of information that they can immediately extract and implement into the lives of the children, whether it be the if they're a parent, their own child, or if they're a caregiver or an educator, a child that they're blessed to watch over and to take care of in the process. At the back of the book, it talks about 10 things that you and your family can do to help wildlife. Of course, the entire list of 10 is in the back, but if there's one or two ones that specifically come to mind, if there's, a parent who's watching, an educator that's watching that says, what, I want to make a more dedicated commitment to wildlife because it truly is very precious. What would be some of the top, 2 or 3 that you would like to share?
One of the ones that I think is really important is for children and parents to learn about the native wildlife that lives in their own neighborhood. A lot of people see sloths, or they see giraffes, or they see elephants, and they think, how cool is that? But for everybody lives there as some sort of wildlife, whether it's a hummingbird or an opossum. And so it's really important for people to understand that they need to coexist with the wildlife that lives in their neighborhood. And I think it's really important for you, if you've got a backyard, and even if you don't, to create a habitat for local wildlife. Hang up a bird feeder. Um, I have several bird feeders in my yard, and the hummingbirds and the orioles come, and it really warms my heart to see that. Another thing people might not realize, I love cats. I love cats. I am allergic to them, but I love them. But for the safety of the cat and for the safety of the local wildlife, it's better to keep your cat indoors. If your cat goes outside, it can get hit by a car. In my neighborhood, it can get eaten by a coyote. So it's really not safe to have it roaming around. But also, when they do roam around, they eat the lizards and the birds. And so I think for the safety of your pet and for the safety of the local wildlife, it's probably better to make sure that it is a house cat, because you don't want it getting hurt. And, I adore my dogs, and I just can't even imagine what would happen if they got loose and ran around the neighborhood. And then just talking about conservation. So what I'm really proud about with these tips in the back of the book is they're not complicated. It's about recycling. It's about using a recyclable water bottle. But again, I think just knowing that all of us have amazing wildlife that lives in our own neighborhood. And that's really critical because conservation starts at home. So if you see a baby bird that's been abandoned in San Diego, we have something called Project Wildlife. It's run by our local humane society. So look in your own hometown and see if there is a rescue facility as well that can help if you see injured wildlife. So there are lots of things that are pretty simple that you can do, and every life does matter. I even saved a spider the other day. I'm not a fan of spiders, but it had fallen in my bathtub, and I kept taking it out, and I finally actually took it outside, and I hope it's doing really well now.
Well, there's again many other ways that you can help wildlife. They're in the back of Teaching Tornero, the true story of a sloth superstar. You're one of the most creative people that I've ever met in my entire life. You always have something waiting in the wings, so to speak. So, of course, we don't like to give away the whole kit and caboodle on the Children's Book Spotlight series, but undoubtedly there is more to come in the Hope and Inspiration series. Can you give us a little sneak peek of what people can see at some point in time at a near trolley stop in the future?
Yes. The next book that's coming out will be this fall, and it's about, I think, one of the world's cutest animals, but they're all really cute. It's about Omeo, a koala. And what's really special about this story, it's about having a will to survive. Omeo was in his mother's pouch, and he was 5 months old when his mother died of cancer. Mm-hmm. And most baby koalas stay in the pouch for 6 months, and then they start emerging gradually. And most 5-month-old koalas do not survive. But Omeo had a will to survive, and there were many close calls when we thought he wouldn't make it through the night. But thanks to our wildlife care team and our veterinary staff, he did. But it wasn't until he was 2 years old that our veterinarian finally said to me, okay, you can write the book. He's finally out of the woods. So it's really a book about survival, about beating the odds. And it's a very, very special story. And I think children are really, really going to like it. And it was also about having to teach him how to eat eucalyptus. Mother koalas usually teach their offspring to eat eucalyptus, which is the only food that koalas eat. But there were some challenges, and he liked the stems and not the leaves. So that is all included in this story. And of course, koalas are marsupials, which is why they are born and then raised in a pouch. So I'm really, really excited about this book. It's called Amazing Omeo, a baby koala's, true story of survival.
That's beautiful. And we look forward to sharing more about that. But in the meanwhile, again, you can head on over to the San Diego Zoo gift shop if you live in the San Diego area or are vacationing this summer, this fall, at a forthcoming point in time in the future, and purchase your copy of Teaching Tornero, the true story of a sloth superstar, in addition to the entire collection of the Hope and Inspiration series, Raising Dawn, Saving Mocha, Mosi Musa, Karen's Heart, Ruxa and Raina, and Fabulous Floyd. You can also head over to shopzoo.com in addition to amazon.com. If that is your preferred online vehicle of your choosing, you can leave a 5-star review, one of the many ways that you can pledge your support for Georgeanne Irvine and the rest of her team at the San Diego Zoo Wildlife Alliance, to let her know that she is doing wonderful and much needed work for children, parents, families, educators, and those who love great children's books. Before we wind down our time, Georgeanne, one of the ways that we always love to close out a children's book spotlight series episode, and we've had the opportunities to put out many wishes for the entire world, and I'd love to be able to do that because, of course, we have one of our favorite segments called 3 Wishes. We still carry this trusty genie lamp wherever we go. I really believe that we always have the abilities to bring to form and to shape whatever it is that we want to create, to bring into our own lives. We have the gifts within us to do that, to bring other people's wishes, dreams, goals, desires, visions to life as well, too. On the theme of Tornero, and let's say that we're channeling his spirit through the both of us, what would be 3 wishes that you would like to put out right now as we head out into the summer, whether it be for children, parents, families, educators, just for our fellow neighbors? What are some of the things that you would like to place wishes out for as we celebrate our 175th episode of the Children's Book Spotlight series?
Oh my gosh, you always ask me, and I have to. One of my wishes is that children, especially with Teaching Tornero, will look inside of themselves and understand that they are special. It doesn't matter. Every child is a superstar. And in this day and age, people get criticized, and kids just need to know that they're wonderful who they are. And that was kind of a wish with the Raising Dawn, the Taper book as well, but just knowing that you are a superstar. I also wish that just the world in general continues to wake up and realize how important it is for us to coexist with the wildlife on our planet. You've still got poachers out there. You've still got habitat destruction, and there is still time to save and protect our Earth. And my beloved friend Jane Goodall says, if we would just give Mother Earth a break, she will heal. So I really wish that people will take into account how important it is to do what we can, whether it's recycling, whether it's donating to conservation causes, whether it's learning about conservation or discussing it. Every little bit helps. And so that is a huge, huge wish of mine. And then a wish for me is I just want to keep being able to inspire children by writing books about wildlife, whether it's hope and inspiration books, whether I've got illustrated books in my future. I just want to be able to continue that because that's what's in my heart. And that's a way that I feel I can play a role in helping the planet by inspiring children. And I think children are our future, but I also hope that adults will be inspired by reading the books and that the children will inspire their parents and families to care. That is what my personal wish is for myself. So thank you for asking.
You're most certainly welcome. And if you're looking for a paragraph to best describe the energy and the childlike nature as well at the same point in time of one of our favorites, Georgeanne Irvine, you simply go to the back of the book of Teaching Tornero. When Georgeanne Irvine was a child, she slept with 12 stuffed animals on her bed, a lion, 2 teddy bears, a tiger, a monkey, and more. It was indicative of what was to come, a lifelong career at the San Diego Zoo as a champion for wildlife and conservation, as well as an author of 24 children's books about animals. I love that. I used to have the Care Bears back in the day as well, too. So we come from the same cloth. Raise your hand if you have had fun on episode number 175 of the Children's Book Spotlight series. We see hands from Georgeanne, hands from myself, hands from the little one on screen. And we're also proud to mention the fact that Teaching Tornero has also been given 2 paws up by Little Forrest. If you're wondering where he is and why it's so quiet, he's actually taking a little bit of a nap right now, but he's still giving 2 paws up to Teaching Tornero, the true story of a sloth superstar. There are many more magical trolley stops to come. We are almost embarking on one of our favorite times of the year. That is the summer reading season here at PR from the Heart. We're huge proponents of summer reading, even though the weather's getting warmer in many parts of the country because the summer's just almost around the corner. It's so important while the kids take the time to go to the ball games and the amusement parks and the concerts and playing with their friends, to really remember to take that time to read, because it's really going to be setting the trajectory, not only for the forthcoming back to school season, for the rest of their lives as well, too. So if you are a children's or middle grade author, if you would like to share your inspiring story in the release of your brand new children's book, just like Georgeanne did here on episode number 175 of the Children's Book Spotlight series, and to become a featured guest here on the program, you can head on over to our official website, which is prfromtheheart.com, or you can connect with us via any of our social media platforms that you now see on screen. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all at PR from the Heart. Also, we want to give a little tip of the cap to one of our favorite neighbors. You remember him and you love him as the beloved Mr. McFeely on the long-running children's television program, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. We know him and we love him as David Newell. If you're a children's author and would like for David and I to deliver a new heartfelt review of your brand new children's book on a forthcoming edition of the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast, again, that is the featured children's book review program here at PR from the Heart, where for the past 2 years, we have shared and delivered the newest reviews from the top award-winning and best-selling children's books, and of course, some of the newest children's books from the shining stars, the rising stars in the kidlit community at PR from the Heart. You know where to connect with us at prfromtheheart.com or any of our social media platforms as well. We look forward this fall to returning back to our friends at the Center for Media Innovation in downtown Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania as well. And of course, as many children's authors and middle grade authors are looking to share their message with more children, parents, families, educators, and those who love great children's books during the back to school season and the holiday season, we look forward to seeing how we can be of service to you. So if you would like to facilitate a featured television interview or interviews in a city or cities of your choosing, to facilitate your very own book media tour or your very own national book media tour, let us see how we can help you and support you in your next steps. You can head on over to our official website, prfromtheheart.com, and schedule your courtesy connection call in the process, as this summer we're also celebrating proudly our 9-year anniversary of being service to all of you. Again, one final time, the brand new children's book, the newest installment in the Hope and Inspiration series. It is now available, Teaching Tornero, the true story of a sloth superstar. Again, you can purchase that in addition to any of the other award-winning books as part of the Hope and Inspiration series at the San Diego Zoo gift shop. If you live or are visiting San Diego this summer or beyond, you can head on over to shopzoo.com, the official website that you can purchase your children's books that are the Hope and Inspiration series through the San Diego Zoo Wildlife Alliance. And then, of course, Amazon.com. Again, the titles are Raising Don, Saving Mocha, Mosi Musa, Karen's Heart, Rooks and Raina, and Fabulous Floyd. They're all now available. Leave 5-star reviews if you feel guided to do so. Again, that's one of the many ways that you can pledge your support for Georgeanne, to let her know that she's doing not only a wonderful job, but she's doing wonderful and much needed work for children, parents, families, educators, and those who love great children's books. And again, you can, in the description below, you can also enjoy our 4 previous trolley stops and see how we've grown over the course of these past several years. But again, episode number 42, when we shared Rooks and Raina, episode number 66, where we shared Mosi Musa, episode number 112, where we shared Saving Mocha, and then episode number 162, most recently during this past holiday season, where we shared the release of Raising Don. And again, as we wind down our time here, we of course want to give a little tip of the cap to one of our favorite neighbors, of course, Mr. Rogers, the long-running host, the host of the long-running popular children's television program, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. He reminded us each and every day, whether it be through the neighborhood, whether it be through college commencement speeches, library talks, whenever he communicated with children in his life, he reminded them of their inherent worth and value. And he still takes the time to do that from afar. His favorite numbers were 1, 4, 3. And that was his reminder to us. Well, first of all, there's 1 letter in I, 4 letters in love, and 3 letters in you. So as we like to keep in our own way, Mr. Rogers' memory and legacy alive here on the Children's Book Spotlight Series and through PR from the Heart, as Georgeanne was kind enough to give us some of her free time here this week on the program in her return to the Children's Book Spotlight Series, we share our favorite numbers, which are 2, 4, 3. There's 2 letters in we, 4 letters in love, and 3 letters in you. That's our reminder. We're reminding you of your inherent worth and your inherent value. We're reminding you that you are a superstar, that you are now ready to tap even more into the creativity that lies within your heart, that lies within your mind, that resides within your soul as well, too, so that we like you, that we love you just the way that you are. So this has been a magical trolley stop. Many more to come for Little Forrest, who is sleeping in yonder way over there, for Georgeanne Irvine, and for myself, John Masalonis. We want to thank you for spending some free time here with us in our neighborhood. If this message has inspired you, if it's lifted your spirits, if you say, you know what now, Georgeanne, Little Forrest, and John, I now know that I too am a superstar, a rock star, just like Tornero, that I can do my part to still go slow and steady, but eventually you'll pick up the pace and you'll be ready for the bright lights in the big city. That is, of course, being the energy of a superstar. We encourage you, if you haven't had the chance to do so, to subscribe to PR from the Heart's official YouTube channel. Share this very special trolley stop that you have been now enjoying. That has been episode number 175 of the Children's Book Spotlight Series. So as we hear the trolley, and we know that that means that it's time to go. Thank you for your continued support of PR from the Heart, for your continued support of the Children's Book Spotlight Series, for your continued support of children's authors and middle grade authors and illustrators all around the world, just like Georgeanne, who are doing, again, wonderful and much needed work for children, parents, families, educators, and those who love great children's books. For those who continue to support the pillars of our community. The pillars of our community truly are local libraries and children's and independent bookstores. Truly the fabric of our community, the pillars of our communities, we like to say. And above all else, we want to thank you for helping us to walk home the children of the world, our fellow friends, our fellow neighbors, and our fellow shining stars. Thank you for joining us over the past several years to get to this particular point. But we're going to be celebrating our 5-year anniversary this fall. So again, many more magical trolley stops to come. So again, for Little Forrest, for Georgeanne Irvine, for myself, John Masalonis, thank you for helping us to walk home the children of the world, our fellow friends, our fellow neighbors, and our fellow shining stars. Goodbye for now.